Anthony, as well as the show, stand-up dates, performances, things like that.
Yeah, I did my first season of the show at the beginning of the year, and then it ended in April, and then I just went on tour for 10 straight weeks, and then got off and went right back into the show. So I'll go back on the road in the fall, but through the rest of the summer, I'm working on this and nothing else.
And second season, Comedy Central, pretty fucking good because they don't really have a farm team. Like they used to sort of go, well, it's not really getting a lot of traction, but we see some potential. And now it's just like one and done. Like you just either do it, you get traction, you have some rating success or whatever it is, or they'll just boot you right out.
Yeah, I think our show was easy to deal with. We were pretty good about accepting notes, and it's really cheap to do. My show costs a third of what it costs to do Workaholics, so it was smart for them to order more of them and try to make it work as opposed to some other show.
Speaking of accepting notes, one of the funniest moments, I enjoyed season 1 very much. One of the funniest moments was when you incorporated the studio notes to make the show more appealing to young people. And you had something called 9/11 Babies.
Yes.
That was a hilarious joke. I'm wondering if it actually came from studio notes to make it more appealing to young people.
A little bit. We had taped that bit of me. We dressed up 2 babies like the Twin Towers, and I spoon-fed them baby food, and their faces explode.
Well, he was like, here comes the airplane.
Yeah, and we were like, Comedy Central's like, we'll never let you air that. But then after the first or second episode, they were like, we need to see more tape. You guys are doing a lot of stills. We need more tape because kids like motion kind of thing. And we're like, all right. Well, we've got 9/11 Babies, and they're like, all right, do it. So it just worked out perfectly. It was the only way we could have gotten that on the
air. The conversations, and I don't know if you can think of some of the more insane conversations you've had with
absolutely.
executives.
I remember them all. And it's not so much the executives because they don't really want to talk to me. They talk to producers or anyone they can put someone between me and them because I just get ticked off when I get notes. Like I don't like being told what to do. It's weird being a comedian because you don't ever want to have a boss, and all of a sudden you're surrounded by bosses. So they try to leave me alone, but I'll get notes.
On funny
notes.
Bosses.
Well, no one's as funny, I think, as funny as I am who works at Comedy Central.
Well, of course not.
Yeah, I'm a professional. But I remember once they would be like, we had a thing where it was called "Is That a Baby in the Dryer?" And we had like a graphic of a baby going around in a dryer, and we'd play different sound effects, and you would try to decide if that's a baby in the dryer or not. And they were like, can you just at the end just say, hey, guys, this isn't a real baby, and you shouldn't put your baby in the dryer?
Right.
I was like, why would I? Of course it's not a real baby. Of course you shouldn't do that.
Right.
So we wrote something that was just so insulting. It was like Comedy Central thinks you're fucking dumb.
Right.
And they were like, okay, maybe you don't have to do that. Take that note out. Which is always fun to prove to them how dumb they are.
My greatest Comedy Central victory was we just had some stupid joke. We used to do something called Monkey Bar or something where like monkeys would just tell stupid jokes, and I don't remember it, but
we like a person dressed like a monkey? Or
no,
like a monkey?
Actual monkeys.
Okay.
We had the guy Tom Stern who did all the like monkey, whatever those 90s. There was like mid-90s monkey whatever shows. They do like
the monkeys like yap 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 their mouth, and they would overlay some.
Oh, like the peanut butter in the mouth thing.
Yeah,
gotcha.
It's kind of like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mostly on my cock, but sometimes I put it in a monkey's mouth. But usually I find it gets the animals
end up
over.
in his mouth.
Right, that's how I would apply it to his mouth. They do that thing, and then they do like the scene from Titanic, but it was stupid monkeys. I don't know who
Primate theater.
Yeah. I don't know who thought this was a great plan, but we had the guy, Tom Stern, who did all those. He's the same guy who told me to drive off the tow truck when my BMW was being towed. He was a little bit nuts. And so we're doing this like monkey bar thing, and it was like, hey, did you hear the one about the Albanian woman who went with the other Albanian woman into the store? And she looked at these, and it was something with her husband's balls or something. And Debbie Liebling, who worked there at the time, was like, you cannot say that about Albanians. And we just kept going round and round and round. And they were like, you have to make up a new place, like a Richard Dreyfuss movie, Moon Over Parador or something, like make up your own country. And so we spent days with the stupid writers like making up Extavistan and stuff like that. But it didn't sound right. Like it never sounded right. We needed Albanian or whatever it was. It did not sound right. And we were arguing into a speakerphone, arguing and arguing and arguing. And at a certain point, I just said, Jimmy, what nationality is your dad? And he said, German. And I said, what nationality is your mom? And he said, Italian. I said, my mom's Irish, but my dad is Italian. And I said it to another guy, and then I said, Debbie Lee. I said, what are your parents? And they were different. And I said, how do you know that the Albanian women's husbands are Albanian? They could be something else. And she went like, all right. Like the stupidest fucking thing in the world. Of course, we never got a letter. Like, no one gave a shit. We just argued about it for 3 days.
And this allowed it to sound right coming out of a monkey's mouth?
It's like, technically, she could argue that the Albanian men were not Albanian. They were somewhere, they married outside of their ethnicity, and thus we couldn't be held to the fire by the strong Albanian lobby.
Yeah, they always want an argument just in case, even no matter how ridiculous that argument is. But I always like when they're like, okay, you can't tell this Asian joke. I'm like, okay, what if I make it a black joke? Great. Gay joke, even better. They're just like, Asian people will write letters. Black people we can make fun of all the time because black people don't watch Comedy Central.
I mean, I would imagine that when they greenlit your show, imagine that they would be having lots of conversations like this with you, right?
Their pitch to me was, you can do whatever you want. We know that if you're happy, we'll be happy with it. But the note I get is not so much about the material. They know I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. They just want me to be more broad so I can bring in more people. They're like, we don't just want like a small. They want Tosh numbers from me.
Right.
I'm like, well, that will happen if I just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I get better at the show as I go on.
Yes.
But they're like, well, what if you just did more pop culture jokes? If you told a Chris Brown joke every show, that would get more people on board. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to make fucking Chris Brown jokes every day.
Well, also, what they do and what everyone does is it's basically you end up with a minivan. I always say this, where they go, we need you to have great performance, but also you need to be economical. You need to get great mileage, and you got to be sporty, but you have room for 8. Yeah. And you gotta look great, but you got to be super thrifty too. And it's like, what you end up with is a fucking Pontiac Aztec of comedy. You end up with nothing. You cannot be all things to all people. You're nothing to nobody. You're just fucking pick a path and go down that path. Hopefully people will dig what you're doing. If they catch you trying to please people in comedy, you're fucked. Like, if you ever stop and go, I wonder what these people want out of me, you're ruined now. And I don't know that anybody, a composer, comedian, poet, artist, did anyone ever go, I wonder what painting people want to see? Yeah. I wonder what poem people want to hear? I mean, all the greats and whatever it's Lenny Bruce or Beethoven or whoever, they just went, I'm going to create. They certainly didn't call a committee of untalented people to gather around them and help them paint.
Yeah.
I don't know why they think this is going to work.
Yeah, and the notes they give me, they'll be like, sometimes you're dark, you're too dark. Sometimes it's dark for the sake of being dark is when I get a lot. And I would just say, listen, I've gotten these notes since my first open mic. And I've ignored them to get to where I am today. I just didn't listen to anybody to get here. Why should I start listening to you now?
Right.
That stuff. And you just try to just keep your head down and get through it and hope you get picked up for the next season. Because I know it just gets better episode by episode.
You know what'll help? We used to do this all the time, which was Jimmy would be kind of the asshole and then I'd be the nice guy. And if you can find, you're obviously the bad.
You were the nice guy? I mean, you were the nice guy.
I played the role of the nice guy. Yes. I was the nice guy, and so what would happen is I would eventually pick up the phone and go, okay, Debbie, listen, Jimmy's fucking stewing over this thing, but I think we can work this one out. And then I'd be like good cop, bad cop.
Oh, I thought you meant on the air.
No, not on the air.
Do that where,
off the air, I would do
Gotcha.
she'd go let me talk to Adam because he's not screaming and yelling and huffing and puffing, and then we'd kind of work it out. But we played it that way, you know, we knew what we were doing.
Yeah, because that's another way to get jokes on the air too. Is if let's say you and I are on the show together, and you make some horrible joke, and I'm like, Adam, that's messed up. That makes it okay because people watching at home are like, oh, the show commented on itself. Right. We don't have to get mad. But as a viewer, as someone who enjoys comedy, I know that trick. And it ticks me off. I'm not an idiot. I know you're joking. I know you don't mean this awful thing.
Yes.
So that always kills me.